Welcome everyone to today's podcast. Well, I have got the amazing Christin Marvin on today, who lives in Denver, Colorado. And here we are in Australia getting ready for a very hot Christmas here. And she is sitting over there waiting for her beautiful first dusting of snow, which I always think to myself, it must be wonderful to have a white Christmas. But we're going to be speaking today about hospitality because Christin is a renowned coach in the industry. So let me give you a little bit of background and before we get into our conversation. So Christin Marvin is a distinguished restaurant coach, author, speaker, and host of the Restaurant Leadership podcast, who specializes in helping independent multi-unit restaurant owners scale without losing their minds or their culture. With over 20 years of hands-on experience in both fine dining and high volume growth concepts, Christin has established herself as the go-to authority for restaurant leaders ready to move from chaos to confidence. She's the founder of Solutions by Christin and creator of the Independent Restaurant Framework, IRF, a proven system that transforms overwhelmed owner-operators into confident CEOs. Christin's approach is built on supportive, tough love and real-world experience, having navigated her own journey from the line cook at 15 to managing partner by 30. She understands the unique challenges facing restaurant leaders today. Her vulnerability about struggling with burnout and using alcohol to cope has made her a trusted voice for leaders who need someone who truly gets it. Through her personalized one-on-one coaching, elite group programs, and leadership workshops, Christin helps restaurant groups build unified leadership teams, create culture-driven operations, and implement systems that actually work, which is a great thing. Her clients don't just survive expansion, they thrive through it. When you work with Christin, you're not just getting coaching, you're getting a transformative partnership with someone who's been where you are and knows exactly how to help you scale with intention, not just ambition. And Christin not only does all this great coaching work, but she's also an author of Multi-Unit Mastery, Simplify Operations, Maximize Profits, and Lead with Confidence. The Hospitality Leader's Roadmap, move from ordinary to extraordinary. And you can see they are there in the background if you are watching us live on YouTube. So welcome, Christin. It's lovely to have you here on my podcast.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for the warm intro. That's hearing that read back is that's pretty extraordinary stuff.
It is because I think, as people, particularly in the hospitality industry, it's moving so fast. We don't always stop to acknowledge what we've actually achieved. So that's why I think it's so important when we read our guest bio that we share with, my audience that you've got this expertise. You're not just somebody who goes, hey, yeah, I'm going to show you what to do. I've actually walked that trail with you and I know what it's all about. So I've got some hard-hitting questions here, but I know we'll probably go off on lots of tangents as well. Your journey from line cook at 15 and then to managing partner by the time you were 30 is incredible. When you think about that 15 years of journey, what were some of those defining moments in that climb that still shape how you coach restaurant leaders today?
Yeah, thank you for that. I want to tell you a quick story before I jump into this. I have a client in Sydney, Australia that I started working with about 9 months ago. And when we were going through our first call together and I was understanding what his challenges were and what his goals were, he kept saying to me, I want to increase turnover. I want to increase turnover. And I was like, what are you talking about? That's awful. And I realized that there was a language barrier disconnect. He was meaning turnover as growing sales.
Yes, yeah.
Right. And in America, that means that we're losing people. And so anyway,
yes.
there have been many defining moments in my career, but I'm still learning and still growing. So I love that.
Yes, it's funny. We all speak English, but it's that terminology. And he's probably thinking, why are you saying no to me? Oh,
yeah.
These things
Yeah.
happen.
And he's like, have you been in the industry before? I was like, yeah, I just don't understand where the disconnect is. So anyway, we had a couple good laughs around that.
Yes, you would.
I think there have been so many wonderful moments in my career. And I think, you said it earlier. I think when I was in it over the last 20 years, I didn't really appreciate all those moments and all those people around me that had helped me grow. I'd recognized a few, but I'd moved a million miles an hour. I've opened 13 restaurants and helped one company scale from 2 to 7 in 5 years, all different concepts, and another group scale from 6 to 48 locations in 7 years. And so it's just flying at the speed of light. And I
Mm,
think that over the last 3 years, as I've become a coach and worked with clients and really taken time to reflect on my journey and try to practice more gratitude instead of being so self-critical.
mm,
Um, I've really come to appreciate the people in my life that took time to invest in me, that took time to have one-on-ones with me, that were effective, that were supportive, and the recognizing and understanding that leadership development is as much my responsibility
mm,
as it is the companies that I'm working for. And so the moments in my career when I was seeking that additional support, whether it was hiring a coach or reading books like Setting the Table back in the day, or love that book so much, or attending conferences or seminars around leadership development. When I was, or studying mixology or becoming
mm.
sommelier, when I sought those opportunities out and challenged myself to learn and grow and engage, those moments really helped propel me forward. And the minute that I stopped doing that, I started to get closer to burnout.
Yes, yeah. I love that book you mentioned, Setting the Table by Danny Meyer. One of my brothers bought that for me many years ago, and I've still got it in my bookcase over there. I think every second page is dog-eared with yellow tabs in it, and it really is an interesting book, giving you so much insight in the industry. But then your own personal journey there, Kristen, is right. We can be in it so much that we do not give ourselves that opportunity to look up, acknowledge what we've done, but also actually see where we are and where we're going forward. So thank you for that. And I know we're
Mhm.
going to explore a lot more over that over these next few questions. You created that independent restaurant framework built on people, process, and profit. And we do need money. We do need profit. We build businesses, we can employ more people, we can provide more to the greater community. Can you walk us through these pillars and why they're so essential for hospitality leaders looking to scale with intention, not just ambition?
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about a client that I'm currently working with, located in Colorado. They have 2 locations. They're looking to scale and open potentially 1 to 2 more in the next couple of years. And the work that we do in the beginning with clients that want to scale is we make sure that we're strengthening the foundation first and filling in any cracks. And so that has to start with understanding from the people perspective what the business needs in terms of leadership, and then where does the current leadership team stack up and how do they measure to what the business actually needs? And from there, we can understand if people need internal development in order to grow really into the roles that are going to help the company scale. Do they have that expertise and knowledge? Or do we need to look outside and really kind of close the gaps? And so that is really what the people aspect is all about. It's also really looking through every single department and every layer of your business to make sure that the people that are on your team are coming in matching your culture so that you can
Yes.
keep that culture and those core values intact as you retain and promote those people. And so
Yes.
once we've got the people locked down, right? Once we've got that solidified, then we start to move on to the process part, which is nurturing them,
Mm,
developing them, and making sure that everyone is aligned on where the business is going, have a very clear vision,
yes.
and they understand what their roles and responsibilities are to that vision. And there is structured communication in all
Yeah.
levels of the organization so
Mm,
that the teams can be more proactive with problem solving and really calm a lot of that chaos down.
yes.
And when you've got those things in place, the profit flows, which
Mm,
is beautiful.
yeah.
But not to just say we finished the first 2 pillars and we're like, okay, you're profitable, you're great. But you've got to understand what measurables, both leading indicators and lagging indicators, you want to use for your business,
Mm,
and be able to have visibility over those. and also train and develop your teams to understand why those are important. Like you said, we have to have profit. The
Yes.
teams want raises every year. They
Yes.
want bonuses, right? They want to be bonused off the work that they're doing, and they need to understand how making small impacts to how they show up as engaged leaders, to the productivity of the business, to food cost, to beverage costs, to training. They need to understand how that impacts the bottom line so that
Mm.
they can build great habits and rinse and repeat. So that's what we do.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for that to explain those three pillars. And each one is individual standing, but they're all connected. Because without one,
100%.
the other two don't stand. So, and it's really
Yeah.
important. And it's understanding each of those steps, they have to be done very methodically as well.
Yes.
Because if you
Yes.
just, I think we find that a lot, particularly in hospitality, we can be in those roles where, a new person comes in and instead of giving them the 6-step process, oh, well, you know what, you can do it in 3. But when we miss out the steps, they miss out those key critical points. And that's exactly what I feel when you've mentioned about your 3 pillars. If you don't go through them in a thorough way and understand how they all connect, then the steps are missed. And that's where we can lose things, can't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was having a conversation with a client this morning, and we've spent a lot of time developing their leadership team. And we check in, we use Gino Wickman's methodology
Oh, yes.
around get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it, right?
Yes.
GWC. And we
Mm,
were having this conversation and checking in on this employee this morning, this director of operations going, man, this person gets it. They want it so bad, but they don't know how to multitask. And so they
mm,
can't take multiple projects or additional projects on. And so
mm.
it was a huge, area of improvement that we had to really start to clarify, define, and then get to the bottom of exactly what is going on with that person. And can that person be developed, or is that person in the wrong role?
Yes, yeah. Now, as a hospitality business coach, I think perhaps many of your role may be actually getting them, your clients to think differently. Do you find, which is,
Yes.
can be hard at times, particularly when we're all set in our ways or what our dream is or that vision for the business. What are some of the old beliefs or patterns that are holding owners back from building that thriving, scalable operation today?
Yeah, one of the beautiful stories that I love to share with clients a lot is in the book Setting the Table. Danny Meyer talks about the salt shaker
Mm,
incident where he was talking to one of his mentors, and he was so frustrated that he had to constantly go in and tell the staff to put the salt shaker in the middle of the table. And
mm,
his mentor said to him, "This is your job, is to constantly be moving the salt shaker back,
mm.
right? Working with the teams to call this out when things need to be adjusted." And so, yes, thinking differently and shifting a very small perspective
Yes.
can really change the way that a restaurant owner shows up. And so, again, I was having this conversation yesterday with a client, and so frustrated they were saying, I've set these expectations. We just had a really hard review. And now another issue has come up. And I
Yes.
said, are you looking at this as here's another thing I have to coach, and here's another thing that's come up on my to-do list? Or are you looking at it as here's another opportunity for me to support and develop this person?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. It's
And
how are they
yeah.
seeing it? Mm,
Yeah, and there's two different energies that come from those perspectives, right? One is this frustration, this anger, you're hanging on I just like I'm feeling it in my body as I'm saying it right now. It's just like, oh, I have to go do this thing, instead of this relaxed, oh my gosh, here's an opportunity for me to support and serve as a leader and come
yes.
in and coach. And that's what people's jobs are. So I think when we talk about thinking differently, and you and I just had a beautiful
Mm,
conversation around staffing challenges and what's
yes.
happening in the industry, right? The owners and operators that understand that coaching has never been more important than it is today,
Mm,
and that the people focus needs to be more important. And I know it's exhausting, and it comes at you in moments when you don't expect it to, right? Which
mm,
is really, really hard. It's hard to plan for that. The ones that are prioritizing their people and they're creating space for themselves to be patient and open and available, those are the ones that are leading us into the future of what leadership looks like in hospitality.
yeah, very much so. Yes, it's going to be an incredible journey over the next few years and decades in going forward with the whole, as you're saying, we were just talking on your podcast about the changes, that changing of the guard as baby boomers move out, Gen X, Y, and then our beautiful cohort of Gen Zs move into these leadership roles a lot quicker than what
Yeah.
baby boomers did. No, they're not going to wait around until, Jack or Mary finally, retire and they're waiting 10 or 11 years. These Gen Zs are looking for movement, within the first few months. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
They
and
really
we
are.
look at that, don't we? And as owners of businesses, we've got to understand that that's how they're seeing the world. It is moving quickly. And we do not want to lose some great people. You're incredibly open about your own personal journey, and being in the business through burnout, and looking at alcohol as that way to calm things down or just to relieve our minds at times. And that vulnerability clearly resonates with many in the industry. How can hospitality leaders start prioritizing wellness for themselves and their teams without feeling like they're losing their edge? And we were just talking about this. Wellness is so important. We can't keep going, but we keep pushing ourselves. And then our leaders are looking at us and thinking, well, our teams are looking at us and going, well, if that's how you're dealing with leadership, do I want to be on that journey?
Right.
Mm.
Right. It's
Yes, yes.
100%. It's
Mm.
difficult to make leadership look attractive, or it has been in the past in the
Yes.
industry.
Mm.
I think this vulnerability for me is brand new. I was the type of leader in the industry where I was trained to leave my shit at the door
Mm.
and come in and be professional and never let them see a sweat and really have thick skin.
Yes.
And I was never vulnerable. I never wanted to talk about my personal issues or anything that was going on outside of work with my teams. I wanted to just be fearless for them and never let anything bother me. And that came at a cost because
Mm.
it cost me the relationships, the lack of depth in the relationships that I had with the team. Because when you show up like that and you're always positive, in the back of your team's mind, they are wondering if they can trust you and they wonder what you're hiding.
Yes.
And I wasn't hiding anything. I just, but I wasn't being as human as I possibly could. And so actually my coach 3 years ago, when I said, I'm going to write a book, he said, well, I want you to lean in really, really hard and be more vulnerable than you ever have before. And boy, I went for it with the Hospitality Leaders Roadmap, and the response I got and the support was absolutely eye-opening, and it really has shifted who I am. But I think, to answer your question, prioritizing wellness is the edge
Mm.
that owners and operators need and can really lean into. When they start to become aware of what personal wellness means to them, they show up with more clarity, with more engagement, with more intention, with more energy, and they're more present with their teams, and they're able to solve problems quicker in the business and create some long-term lasting
Mm.
solutions and have greater success.
Yes.
And we know how demanding the industry is. I chose to lean into alcohol because I was burnout and I didn't want to admit it.
Mm.
I had lost sight. Well, I actually didn't know what my core values were at the time. I was 40 when I discovered those.
Yes.
I didn't know what I was connected to any longer with growing and scaling as fast as I was.
Mm.
And the minute that I took a moment to slow down and give myself that mental space and clarity, everything shifted.
Yeah.
And I think if owners and operators can truly take 1 to 2 days off a week. I just talked to an operator this morning on 20 years. She said, Kristen, I have been taking Saturdays off consistently since we started working together a year and a half ago. And I don't check email and I completely unplug from work. And
Mm.
it's been magical. And that was a huge step for her, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. Mm.
So when people can start to take those tiny, tiny steps and set those boundaries for themselves, they will understand the true importance and the impact that it can have.
Mm.
And then they can start leading by example for their teams.
Yeah, I think that boundary setting is so important. It doesn't matter what their age group is, but I'm finding, even Gen Ys that are in those leadership roles now, particularly middle management, don't have any boundaries. They don't set them, they don't inform others, and therefore they don't keep them, and they're easily broken, and they're letting down themselves because they will burn out. And the team is looking at them and saying, if this is what it's like, then I don't want to be in that role. So then when we say to them, hey, there's an opportunity for you to step up into being a team leader or supervisor or a duty manager, they go, no, thanks, because I can see what that has done to you. So that
Yeah.
wellness component and your through your book and through your conversations in that raw honesty of, well, this is where you can lead you, but there's also an opportunity to come out of that dark space as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. And I have a client in Australia, and unfortunately, he has not prioritized wellness and is trying to do it now, but his body is completely breaking down. There's a lot of stress. He's been in and out of the hospital quite a bit
Mm.
because of it. And he's now to the point of burnout and exhaustion, and now he's looking for an exit strategy.
Yes.
And we're 2 to 3 to 4 years down the road for that.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
anybody that's listening to this, I think if you are having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, if you're not looking forward to going in, if you feel like you truly can never disconnect or unplug, burnout is staring you in the face. And
Mm.
I don't care what's happening in the restaurant, take some time off, take a week,
Yes.
take three
Mm.
days and unplug completely, and kick in the 72-hour effect, because there's nothing more important than your health. My mother-in-law has told me that for 20 years. And
Yes.
it's the older I get, the more I realize it's true.
And it's if you've built up a good team, it's trusting them. When you don't show up for work, the business is not going to collapse. If it does, well, then my goodness, you haven't built a business. You've just built literally a noose around your neck. That's
Yeah.
that's not good business practice. So sometimes it's taking that realization, stepping back, and having that day off, or those couple of days off, or like that lady you were saying, having every Saturday off, and giving that responsibility and that accountability to the team that they actually step up, because they're going, you're giving us the opportunity for us to shine. So
Yeah.
let them shine, let them do that. Yeah, you know what? They're never going to do it exactly the same way as you. They're never going to have, do it as fast or cost effective, but they will learn and you will get your health back. And I think, your raw honesty through your journey just shows others that it can be achieved. It is achievable. And, when you said about finding those core values, I'm very values focused driven. To me, it is working with businesses that are congruent. Maybe not every single value is going to be totally aligned, but the majority have got to be
Yeah.
aligned. And I think, maybe those that are coming into the workplace don't always put it down as, well, these are what my values are, but all they say to them, if you walk into an organization and you just get that funny, yucky feeling in your tummy, it's just not congruent. Don't
Yeah.
work there. You've got to work in hospitality where you've got those values and they're not just written on the wall in the staff room. They're lived and breathed
Yeah.
by the leadership team, aren't they?
It's 100%. I mean, when we work with clients, we really ask them, okay, what are your core values? Where do
Mm.
they live? When's the last time you've looked at them? And are they included in your hiring processes? And
Yes.
9 times out of 10, people go, what are you talking about? I'm like,
Yes.
let's lean in, let's design some interview questions, and then let's pull those core values through your coaching, your performance reviews,
Mm.
and keep them top of mind for your team.
Yeah, definitely. So you've helped dozens of clients, cut turnover, improve leadership, and even have six figures in labor costs, which is phenomenal. What are a few small but powerful changes operators can implement right now to start seeing those kinds of results?
Yeah. And again, when we're talking about turnover here, we're
Mm.
talking about staff leaving,
Yes,
not
yes.
sales, right? I'll tell you a great story. Client that I have in the desert in Arizona. They have a really, really fun concept. They had 3 locations. They are opening one a year. So we've been able to open 2 together the last couple of years working together. But one of the first things we did was really get into a huge conference room with the current leadership team, executive leadership team, which was 2 people, the owner and a regional manager who is 24.
Right.
And first time we've taken her from AGM to GM to regional. She's extraordinary. And we whiteboarded. Okay, let's talk about where the organization is currently at right now in terms of leadership. And
Mm,
then again, what does the organization need to grow, right? We know we needed financial department and focus. We needed HR. We need marketing, right? And then what do we need from an operations perspective? What I find a lot with independent operators when they're growing, and there's nothing wrong with this, it just is what it is they start promoting people that are loyal to them or that are hardworking and giving them salaries
yeah.
because they're afraid to lose them, right?
Yes.
Or their loyalty is really strong. So what this organization had done was that, and in every, even though their concept was exactly the same in the three locations, they had a completely different number of managers in each one, and not based off sales,
Mm.
just because somebody was working hard and they'd asked for a promotion or the manager wanted to give. I see your face right now,
Yeah.
right? We love our people. We want to take care of our people. But when you don't have clearly defined development plans, this is the
Yes.
trap that you get into, right? So
Mm.
we looked at the organization from an operation perspective. We went, okay, what are the roles that a manager actually needs to take care of in each shop? And then let's look at the sales and figure out what does each shop actually need.
Mm.
The newest location that they had just opened, they had given the general manager who'd been with the company many, many years full carte blanche to hire as many managers as he wanted to. So we had
Wow.
one, I know, and he didn't do a very good job. So we had their busiest location that had two managers, and we had their middle location that had six.
Right.
So that's where we cut out. We went, okay, what
Mm.
do we actually need here? And then we realized that those managers, those extra managers, didn't want to be managers anyway.
Yeah.
And so we promoted them as hourlies and got rid of those manager salaries. And
Yes.
then again, we're able to look and go, okay, as we scale and we project this amount of sales, what can payroll actually afford?
Mm.
Right. And what does it take from a role and responsibility perspective to make sure the business is running efficiently and productively? And when a manager comes to you regional and says, or an hourly and says, I want to grow with the company, now we have very clear paths of, well, this is our development plan. You're going to be a shift lead, then you're going to be an AGM, and then you can work up to a GM. And
Yes.
that's what it looks like. Instead of having this stress of, oh, I'm going to lose this person. I need to give them
Mm.
more money. What does that look like?
Yes.
Then
Yes.
you get in, and then you get into this dangerous slip and slide of, well, if somebody finds out how much I'm paying them, they're going to be upset,
Mm.
right? And then you get into fairness and legalities and all that stuff. So,
Yeah. And you're wanting to reward them, but you're not rewarding them with what they want and that
right.
desire. Just throwing money at them, going, "Oh, look, you're really great at that," but they just might be the right person, but they're not in the right role. And we're getting back to that Gino Wickman, and it's so true. They can be loyal, but do they actually want to be leaders, and do they have that ability to be a leader?
Mhm. And
So.
I've been on both sides. I've worked for, I was a managing partner for a group. We had seven completely different concepts.
Mm.
And I was adding on as many roles to myself as possible because in the
Mm.
independent space, we wear a lot of hats, right?
Yes.
And then I was just trying to find problems that I could solve constantly. And so I was spread very thin and wasn't necessarily an expert in any of those areas. Nobody from the ownership team knew exactly what I was doing, although I was doing all these things. And then I worked for a company that was incredibly structured and set and ready for growth from 6 to 48 in 7 years because we knew exactly what experts we needed in what
Yes.
areas and we knew how to stay in our lane. So one was very chaotic and the the other one was much calmer despite that high volume growth.
Yeah. And even with that high volume growth, it was that setting out, it was a process. It was that step by step, not just picking from all places. And it makes the outcome so very different. You've said
Mhm.
restaurant owners can't be in survival mode anymore. And my gosh, I think there's a lot that are in that constant survival mode. They need
Yeah.
to step into actually being a CEO. What does that shift actually look like in practice? And how does someone begin making that mindset change? And perhaps even looking at a number of restaurants, for some, particularly smaller ones, it is a wonderful chef. And they go from being on the pans to now running a restaurant, which is very, very different.
Yeah.
Love your
I
thought.
don't I don't know that a lot of, especially when people are specialized and they own the front of the house or they're specialized in their
Mm,
chef and they decide to take on owner, they tell themselves, I've done this for 20 years, I've done this for 30 years. I love it. I
mm,
can do anything and I love that perspective. But I don't, I think that the trap that a lot of people fall into is they've got that passion for hospitality, they've got that passion for food and beverage and guest experience. They don't fully understand all the things that it takes to run a really
yes.
smart business.
Mm.
And when you sit down and build, I've got people that come to me and they're like, I want to open a restaurant. And I'm like, well, I'm going to try to talk you out of it first. And then
Yes.
we're gonna build a map for you of what the next 18 to 24 months looks like, because this is not going to happen in 6 months like you
Mm,
want it to. And we're going to go through the process of everything that you need to do. And if you take a look at that and you say, I've got the talent around me to do it, or I've got the skill set to do it, and I've got the money to do it,
mm.
and you want to design that kind of life for yourself, go for it. But
Yes.
it's the industry's never been more complex than it has now. We were talking about this earlier from the financial aspect. You've really got to be on top of all your numbers and have
Mm,
strong visibility and people that understand and are bought into that. You've got to have better and smarter marketing than and more diverse than ever before,
mm.
from social media to nurturing your current guests to driving in new traffic. And the HR component is so much more important than it's been before because there are so many newer people coming into the industry.
Mm.
And so having that CEO mentality means that you understand that you have a team of people
Yes.
that you are delegating to, that you're the visionary of the company and you've got your implementers in the room, right? That are
Mm.
helping you execute the vision of where you want to go in the company. The owners that think that they can do it all on their own, bless their hearts. You root for them, but I had this conversation with an owner last week. I said, you're doing an amazing job. You've got so many wonderful things happening for you. You want to open 4 more locations in 4 years, and you've been in business for one.
Yeah.
Is
Wow.
is and you've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Is what you're doing sustainable? And he just started laughing, and he was like, absolutely not. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. Then before you start to look at location number two, you've got to understand what you need. And it doesn't, a lot of people say, I can't afford another salary. I can't afford this. I can't afford that. There have always been fractional roles.
Yes.
When I was working for a group, we had a server that was part-time server, part-time marketer,
Mm.
a server that was part-time community person, part-time server. We had a part-time barista, part-time HR.
Yes.
Um, when we were at that point where we could give those people full-time salaries, we did so. But now in the world, there are fractional CFOs and there are fractional
Yes.
HRs that you
Mm.
only pay when you need them.
Yes.
So, and AI, I mean, there's so many wonderful tools now to help owners, but they can't go at this with, oh, I got it, I'll do it all on my own.
Yes, because as hard as they will try, they will burn out or they won't be happy with themselves and they will lose a lot more, including their own health because they're just so focused on that drive. I always remember something, I had much older parents, and my father, after returning from the Second World War, had started his own business fairly well straight after that, right up until, and he and my mother had worked together all those years. So my father always said, Michelle, you have to spend money to make money. And whether that's
Mhm.
spending money on marketing, whether it's spending money on employees, you have to spend it because when you do, you will get more back on that return. And I see it's so disappointing in the hospitality industry that as soon as things start to get tight, board members or senior management will go, oh, well, let's just cut the staff, cut the staff. And what you're doing then is cutting the experience. And we all know what it's like to go to a restaurant or to a bar where there is one or two people that are trying to do their very best in serving everybody and they're struggling and customers either and they walk out disappointed or hungry and will certainly tell others not to come back. So that knee-jerk reaction of, well, just reduce the staff it's not a reason for growing your business. It's a way to
Yeah.
destroy your business really, really quickly because that owner will think, oh well, I'll just step in and do it. But they're also supposed to be out the back doing that, and they're supposed to be ordering and doing invoicing and doing this and that. And it's just a circle that spirals down, doesn't it?
It's so true. And that old method of cut labor, cut labor, cut labor,
Yeah.
it just doesn't work. It's never worked and
No.
it doesn't work anymore. And there is, this is one thing I work on with clients is, and I ask a lot of independents is, are you scheduling based on labor percentage or hourly sales? And 99% of them are still scheduling off a labor percentage. And when we actually sit down and we look at, let's make sure that your labor is in the right place where it needs to be from when the guests are actually coming in the door. And we cut out
Yes.
15 minutes here, 30 minutes there.
Mm.
We immediately start shaving off percentage points of their labor. So there's a way to do both, right? There's a way to save your labor and be
Mm.
smarter about where you're deploying your people.
Mm. And like you were saying before, that job sharing in that sense, when I speak to clients, you can see the ones that work really well. They'll have a great solid team, but they may have perhaps one team member for that nighttime shift who will go from place to place. They'll be at the foyer to greet the guests when it's that major time of signing people in. Then you'll see them in the bar or taking the orders or clearing the plates in the restaurant. Then they'll be in the coffee shop, and then they'll be, and they move around. You've got to find a staff member who's got that initiative and who can spot those areas and you're confident with. But just having that extra body who goes from place to place just relieves the stress that can mount up on particular areas at certain time. But it ensures the experience is going to be memorable for all the right reasons for the customers
Yeah,
and for the guests, isn't it? And it's,
100%. Absolutely.
yeah, and but you'll hear them, oh, can we really afford it? Well, you know what? You can't afford not to.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we were talking about call outs on our last conversation, if you've got somebody that is available to slide into to a position so you can guarantee that your restaurant is fully staffed
Mm.
every day of the year, huge, huge win.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting when I first set out in the industry, more than 3 decades ago, it was very much isolated solo. You just did this role. You just poured the drinks. Well, actually, they didn't make coffee 30 years ago. It was shocking. My very first trip to America was in 1979, and I remember going along LA with my mum, and there were things that was free coffee or 1 cent a cup, and not that I drank coffee because I was too young, but my mother was going. But how things have changed. But oh, now I've lost my train of thought there. But it's so true. We can put things in place that just don't work. You've got to think
Yeah.
about what you're actually doing. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the future. We've talked enough with what's happened in the past. You've shared your amazing journey, Kristen, but also of those that work with you being their business coach in changing their mindset. What should hospitality organizations be doing right now to prepare for a powerful 2026? Is it too late to reset and start building a better path forward? We've had 5 years, globally of struggling, getting the right teams, building the businesses, getting the people to come in. And as we were just saying then, not reducing staff, but getting more on so that we increase that service. What are your thoughts for the future and 2026? What do they hold? What does your crystal ball say?
Make sure that you are, for anybody that's listening to this, make sure you've got things in place to help you when those distractions come up. I had a call with a client yesterday and they said, what should I be focusing on? They said, I'm really distracted. I've had all these fires come up. I'd like to talk today about what I should be focused on this quarter. And I said, we had a nice giggle about it, but there was a lot of truth in it because this is what we do with coaching, right? We spend an hour every other week together and we slow down and we stop and we strategize and we celebrate the wins, but we also help get back on track, which is great. And I said, uh, remember that 2026 vision that we created of all the things we wanted to accomplish this
Mm.
year and those quarterly goals, those 3 quarterly goals that we designed for each other? I said, pull that back out. Let's
Yes.
let's let's have that. Let's go back to that tool
Mm.
because that's what you should be focused on, and that's what you told your teams to be focused on, and
Yeah.
that's what they're spending their weekly ops meetings on,
Mm.
and that's what they're measuring in terms of performance. So anyway, it was the visionaries at the top, right? We and I am a visionary and an implementer, more than I'd like to be right now, but I'm shifting that. But the visionaries, they've got all these ideas coming in all the time, and so it's so important to have a tool to keep you grounded and focused
Mm.
so that when those times of unclarity come up, you can go, wait a minute, I have a
Yes.
tool that's going to help me with this resource. Yeah.
I've actually got something. Oh, as you said, we've talked about it, we've put it, but it's now on page 20 of that booklet, or it was on a piece of paper that you put in your top drawer. Let's get it out and have a look again because, 2026, every year goes by very, very fast. It is our busy time of the year now to start planning. So, and also rely on your team. Get some feedback from them. Not
Mhm.
you being the owner. I'd love your thoughts because you being the owner doesn't mean that you have to have the answers to everything, does it?
Yeah. No, not at all. I mean, if you are structured, and again, this is part of our framework, but if you are having quarterly meetings with your leadership team and you're having an end of year meeting and you are taking time to celebrate the wins and what really worked well with the business and
Mm,
figuring out how to build on that for the next year,
yes.
and you're talking about the main challenges and you're creating space for your teams to be open and honest about what's not working in the business. You're
Yeah.
creating a really safe space for them where trust and vulnerability can become really, really present. And that's where progress comes from.
And it certainly does. Kristen, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And I know probably we can talk for a lot longer,
Yeah.
but things have to move on. But I know my guests, my listeners will be thinking to themselves, they've heard you mention how you've worked with and continue to work with business owners here in Australia, but also, certainly in America. How can they get in contact with you, and what would they expect when working with you or working with Solutions by Kristen? What, yeah, what would they achieve?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love for anyone that's listening to this to offer you a gift of a coaching session. So please feel free to reach out. Let's start to dive in and strategize
Mm,
what your dreams are, what your challenges are in your business, and give you some actionable items to walk away with. So feel free to reach out to me, kristinlmarvin@gmail.com, or you can come to my website at kristinmarvin.com/contact. And my name is spelled a little bit differently, but we'll put that in the show notes for you. What you can expect, I would say, is clarity and focus as you continue down your path of ownership. Again, we are working with 10 clients right now all over the world to help them craft their exit strategy, to help them develop their people so that they can live the lives that they want
mhm.
to live instead of being chained to the business.
Yes.
We are working with people to scale from 1 to 3 locations. And again, develop a strong team of people that can run the business for them.
Mm.
And we are helping people build the life of their dreams.
Yes, very much so. So I will put all that information into the show notes and with links, but also where can they grab those couple of books that you've written as well?
Yeah, on the website as well. So kristinmarvin.com/books is where you can find the link to those.
And your podcast, the Restaurant Leadership Podcast, they can find that on all platforms.
All platforms, yep. And then you can find that on the website as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. As I said, I know my listeners will have gained some real nuggets of gold from you, Kristen. I wish you all the very best and for you and for your clients an amazing 2026.
Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate it.